Okay, picture this. You're talking to someone, feeling completely relaxed, and suddenly you swap out a perfectly normal word for something totally bizarre. Maybe you meant to say, nice to meet you, and accidentally blurts out, nice to beat you. We usually just laugh those moments off, right? We call them weird, random brain glitches. But what if they aren't glitches at all? What if they're actually clues? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the shoes of a psychological Sherlock Holmes. We're going to dive into the groundbreaking work of Sigmund Freud and explore exactly how he investigated the hidden mysteries of the human mind. Because we're operating under a really fascinating assumption here. When it comes to human behavior, every little mistake is a prime suspect just waiting to be interrogated.
Okay, let's dive into this. Freud had this amazing, slightly dramatic way of putting things. He famously stated that no mortal can keep a secret. He believed that even if our lips are silent, betrayal oozes out of us at every pore. And that perfectly captures his whole view on human behavior. He truly believed that our everyday, seemingly mundane actions were actually breadcrumbs leading us to a much deeper psychological truth. For Freud, the mind was essentially a crime scene, and he was the master detective. You see, he wasn't just interested in massive mental breakdowns. He was fascinated by the tiny cracks in our daily facade. The things we say, the gestures we make, the things we just suddenly forget when we aren't quite paying attention, all of it is evidence.
So, to figure out how these clues actually work, we've got to look at our prime suspect, the unconscious mind. Freud basically saw it as the great waste paper basket of the brain. It's this hidden, locked storehouse. Throughout our lives, whenever we have an unacceptable urge or a socially inappropriate desire or even a painful memory, we don't just, delete it from our hard drive. We repress it. We toss it right into this mental trash can. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The trash never actually gets taken out. Those hidden, messy instincts live on right beneath the surface, holding on to all their emotional energy and constantly pushing to get back out into the open.
Right. So what happens when that repressed trash bubbles up and somehow slips past our mental security guards? Well, we get a parapraxis, or as you probably know it, a Freudian slip. Now, for a psychoanalyst, there is literally no such thing as a random mental error. Forgetting a friend's name, dropping a glass, or mispronouncing a super common word, these aren't just physiological blips. They definitely aren't signs that you just need another cup of coffee. They are deeply meaningful errors. They are your buried, unconscious desires successfully breaking right through the surface of your everyday life.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy tug-of-war happening inside your head pretty much every single day. On one hand, you've got your conscious intention. That's what you politely meant to say, following all the rules of society and aligning with who you think you should be. But fighting right against it is your unconscious desire. That's the unruly, often super inappropriate stuff bubbling away in that mental waste paper basket. When these two forces collide, the unconscious occasionally wins a really quick, subversive little battle. It hijacks your tongue or your physical actions for just the split second to express what you actually want.
Let's crack open the case files and look at some actual evidence straight from Freud's 1901 book, The Psychopathology of Everyday Life. Here's a real documented scenario that Freud analyzed. Picture this. The president of the lower house of the Austrian parliament stands up at the very beginning of a highly official legislative sitting. He strikes the bell, clears his throat, and confidently declares the session closed. I mean, why on earth would a seasoned politician make such a massive, embarrassing blunder right out of the gate?
Well, the motive here is, honestly, delightfully relatable. The poor guy was just completely exhausted. Now, consciously, he knew he had an important duty to fulfill and that he needed to open the session. But unconsciously, he desperately wished the whole thing was already over so he could go home and just be on holiday. That hidden desire for a break completely overpowered his conscious sense of duty. His unconscious essentially hijacked his speech to express the hidden truth. He literally spoke his deepest, truest wish right into existence in front of the entire government. You can't make this stuff up.
Okay, let's examine a second piece of evidence. And this one happened in front of a whole crowd of psychoanalysts, which honestly just makes it even more poetic. A speaker was tasked with giving the closing remarks at a conference, but instead of saying he wanted to thank the other speakers, he accidentally declared he wanted to spank them. Let's put our detective hats back on. We really have to ask, what is the actual psychological motive here?
So the crucial point is that this slip wasn't just a funny mix-up of sounds. It revealed a hidden, aggressive hostility mixed right into his polite gratitude. Think about it for a second. Academic conferences can be tedious, hyper-competitive, and just utterly exhausting. The speaker's conscious intention was to perform the standard polite social ritual of thanking his colleagues, but his unconscious was clearly fed up. He was harboring some real frustration, maybe a bit of superiority. Those two completely competing thoughts collided in his brain. And the hidden truth, this aggressive desire to punish, or literally spank his peers, sneaked right out through the phonetic similarities of the words. It is absolutely a perfect crime of the mind. All right, so now that we've reviewed the evidence, let's quickly run through the ultimate rulebook for spotting these clues out in the wild. First up, remember that parapraxes always originate in the unconscious mind. They are never just random static. Second, they always express a hidden truth, a repressed wish, or a secret motive. Third, they manage to bypass our conscious censorship. Basically, they sneak past the bouncer of our minds while we're looking the other way. And finally, they usually provoke a smile or a laugh from the people listening. Why? Because the disguise is usually just thin enough for everyone in the room to recognize that cheeky, unwoolly desire hiding right underneath the polite surface. As we wrap up this explainer, I kind of want to turn the psychological magnifying glass directly onto you. Think back to the very last time you forgot someone's name or sent a weirdly specific typo or said the complete opposite of what you consciously meant to say. We love to tell ourselves we were just tired or, not really paying attention. But if Freud's detective work holds true, betrayal was oozing out of you at every single pore. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. What did your last mistake really mean? What is hiding in your mental wastepaper basket right now? Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer. Keep learning and happy sleuthing.